Dramily.com, unlimited drama series.
The storm that canceled my conference in Boston probably saved my marriage from lasting another day. I pulled into our driveway 3 hours earlier than expected, watching the Victorian's porch light flicker against the November wind. The house Marin and I had restored together over 5 years now felt like a museum of better times. I found her in the hallway, crouched beside the security cabinet, with a screwdriver in her hand. Her blonde hair was pulled back in that messy way that usually meant she was stressed about something. The cabinet door hung open, exposing the tangle of wires and storage devices that powered our home security system. "How long do we keep the camera footage?" she asked without looking up. "A week," I said, setting my overnight bag down. "Why?" She didn't answer immediately. Her fingers fumbled with the SD card slot on the hallway camera's storage unit. I watched her shoulders tense as she tried to work the tiny mechanism. "Just wondering," she said. "Privacy, you know? Sometimes I feel like we're living in a fishbowl." I nodded and walked past her toward the kitchen, but I doubled back through the living room and slipped the SD card from the door camera into my pocket. 20 years as a security systems engineer had taught me that when someone asks about footage retention, they usually want something erased. Marin was still in the hallway when I returned with a glass of water. She had moved on to the main storage cabinet, examining the backup drives with the intensity of someone trying to defuse a bomb. "Need help?" I asked. "No, I'm fine." She stood up quickly, smoothing her sweater. "How was the drive back?" "Wet." I studied her face. "Conference got canceled. Storm knocked out power to the whole convention center. That's too bad." She was already walking toward the stairs. "I'm going to take a bath." I waited until I heard the bathroom door close, then went to my workshop in the garage. The SD card contained 6 days of footage from the front door camera. I copied everything to my work laptop and started scanning through the files. Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, Thursday evening. Friday at 2:15 in the afternoon, while I was supposedly in meetings, the camera captured Marin opening the front door for someone. The timestamp showed she had disabled the door chime, but the motion sensor still recorded everything. Blaine Dorsey stepped into frame, wearing his usual expensive suit, and that smile he reserved for clients he was about to overcharge. My business partner of 8 years kissed my wife's cheek and followed her inside. I fast-forwarded through the next 2 hours. At 4:30, Blaine left through the same door. Marin appeared briefly to lock it behind him, her hair disheveled and her lipstick gone. I backed up the files to 3 different drives and uploaded copies to my secure cloud storage. Then I pulled the access logs from our smart lock system and cross-referenced the timestamps. Marin had used her code to let him in and out. The system had logged every entry. I renamed the video files by date and exported a 5-minute clip showing their arrival and departure. The metadata was intact, the timestamps were clear, and the faces were unmistakable. My phone buzzed with a text from Marin. "Water's getting cold, coming up soon?" I typed back, "In a minute." I opened my email and started a new message. The recipient list was short but effective. Lisa Dorsey, Blaine's wife of 15 years. Richard Crane, chairman of our company's board of directors. I attached the video clip, the access logs, and a screenshot showing Marin's login credentials. The subject line was simple: Friday afternoon visitors. I didn't add any commentary. The evidence spoke for itself. The bathroom door opened upstairs as I hit send. I heard Marin's footsteps moving toward our bedroom, then the soft sound of dresser drawers opening and closing. I powered down the laptop and walked back into the house. Marin was in the kitchen wearing her terry cloth robe and pouring herself a glass of wine. "Feel better?" I asked. "Much." She took a long sip. "Did you get the camera thing figured out?" "What camera thing?" "In the hallway. I was trying to check the storage space." I shrugged. "Looked fine to me. Why were you worried about it?" She turned to face the window, watching the storm bend the oak tree in our backyard. "Ava mentioned something about hackers getting into home security systems, identity theft, that kind of thing. Ava was Marin's best friend and the source of most of her paranoid theories about modern technology. If Ava had seen a news story about smart refrigerators being used to steal credit card numbers, Marin would spend a week unplugging appliances. "Our system's encrypted," I said, "and it's local storage, not cloud-based." Nobody's hacking into an SD card in our hallway closet. Right, she finished her wine. I'm going to bed early. This weather gives me a headache. I watched her walk upstairs, then went back to the security cabinet. She had tried to factory reset the main camera unit, but hadn't known about the secondary backup system I had installed in the basement. Every camera in the house fed to two different storage arrays. My phone vibrated with a text message. Marin from upstairs. Everything okay? You seem quiet tonight. I typed back, just tired from the drive. Another message appeared immediately. Maybe we could talk tomorrow about us, I mean. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then deleted my first three responses and settled on, sure. Upstairs, I could hear her moving around the bedroom. Dresser drawers opening and closing again. The closet door sliding on its track. I poured myself a drink and sat in the living room, listening to the storm and waiting for my phone to ring. Lisa Dorsey called at 6:30 the next morning. I was already awake, sitting in the kitchen with coffee and watching Maren sleep through the bedroom doorway. She had taken 2 of her prescription sleep aids the night before and wouldn't wake up until noon. Is this some kind of joke? Lisa's voice was tight with controlled anger. No joke, I said quietly. How long has this been going on? I don't know. I found the footage yesterday. There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, the sound of papers shuffling in the background. I'm going to ruin him, she said finally. That's your choice. And her. Also your choice. Richard Crane called me 20 minutes ago. He wants to see all 3 of you in his office on Monday morning. I sipped my coffee. All 3 of us? You, Marin, and Blaine. He's calling it a partnership review meeting. Richard Crane was 68 years old and had been running board meetings since before I was born. He had built his reputation on making quick, decisive cuts when problems threatened the company's reputation. A partnership review meeting was corporate speak for somebody's getting fired. I'll be there, I said. Rowan? Lisa's voice softened slightly. I'm sorry this happened to you. Thanks. But I'm not sorry about what happens next. She hung up. I refilled my coffee and went to my workshop to check on the backup files. Everything was secure, encrypted, and stored in multiple locations. Marin appeared in the kitchen around 11, wearing her yoga clothes and moving carefully. The sleep aids always left her groggy and disoriented. Morning, she said, starting the coffee maker. Afternoon, I corrected. She glanced at the microwave clock and winced. I hate those pills. They knock me out completely. Maybe you should stop taking them. Maybe. She leaned against the counter while the coffee brewed. Did you think about what I said last night about talking? I thought about it. And I think we should wait until Monday. Something shifted in her expression, a flicker of wariness that she tried to cover with a smile. Why Monday? Richard wants to see us. Partnership meeting. The coffee maker finished brewing, but Marin didn't move toward it. She stood perfectly still, staring at me with the kind of focus that meant her brain was working through possibilities. What kind of partnership meeting? He didn't say, just that he wanted to see me, you, and Blaine on Monday morning. She turned away and poured coffee with hands that shook slightly. That's strange. We don't usually have meetings on Mondays. Richard's getting old. Maybe he's changing his routine. Maybe. She took a sip and made a face. This tastes terrible. I think we need a new coffee maker. My phone buzzed with a text message. Marin glanced at it automatically, then looked away when she saw it was face down on the counter. Aren't you going to check that? Later. It might be important. I picked up the phone. The message was from Blaine. We need to talk. Today. I showed Marin the screen. Looks like he wants to prep for Monday's meeting. Her face went pale. What do you think Richard wants to discuss? Probably the Henderson contract. Blaine's been handling that account, and the client's been asking questions about our... our billing practices. This wasn't true. The Henderson contract was solid and profitable. but I wanted to see how Marin would react to the suggestion that Blaine might be in trouble. Billing practices? Cost overruns, timeline delays, the usual client complaints. She nodded slowly. Should you call him back? Probably. I dialed Blaine's number and put the phone on speaker. He answered on the first ring. Rowan, thank God. Are you free this afternoon? Depends. What's going on? Richard called me this morning. Something about a partnership review. Did he call you too? Yeah, Monday morning. Do you know what this is about? Marin was watching my face intently, trying to read my expression. Could be the Henderson account, I said. Or maybe he's finally ready to retire and wants to discuss succession planning. Succession planning? Blaine's voice brightened. That would be incredible timing. Why's that? Well, you know, with everything that's been happening lately. Marin's coffee cup rattled against the counter as she set it down too hard. What's been happening lately? I asked. Just changes, new opportunities. I'll explain everything this afternoon. Sure. Your place or mine? Actually, could we meet somewhere neutral? Maybe that coffee shop downtown? The one on Main Street? Perfect. Say 3 o'clock? See you there. I hung up and looked at Marin. She was staring out the kitchen window, her jaw clenched tight. New opportunities? She said. Blaine's always chasing new opportunities. Remember when he wanted us to expand into residential alarm systems? This sounded different. Different how? She turned to face me. More personal. I finished my coffee and rinsed the cup in the sink. I guess I'll find out this afternoon. Can I come with you? To a business meeting? I am part of the business. This was technically true. Marin handled our marketing and client relations, though she had been less involved in day-to-day operations over the past year. Sure, I said. If you want to spend your Saturday listening to Blaine talk about contracts and profit margins. Actually, I just remembered. I'm supposed to meet Ava for lunch. That's probably more fun than listening to Blaine anyway. She nodded and went upstairs to get dressed. I heard her moving around the bedroom, then the sound of her phone ringing. Hello? Her voice was muffled through the floor. No, I can't talk right now. I said I can't talk. We'll figure something out. The conversation continued for several minutes, but I couldn't make out the words. When she came back downstairs, she was wearing jeans and a sweater, with her purse slung over her shoulder. I'm going to head out early, she said. Maybe do some shopping before I meet Ava. Okay. She paused at the door. Rowan? Whatever Richard wants to discuss on Monday, we'll handle it together, right? Right, I said. She kissed my cheek and left through the garage. I waited until her car disappeared down the street, then went back to my workshop and opened the laptop. I had 3 new emails. One from Lisa Dorsey with the subject line, "We need to coordinate our response." One from Richard Crane confirming Monday's meeting, and one from an address I didn't recognize with the subject line, "You don't know the whole story." I opened the last one first. Rowan, there are things about your wife that you don't understand. Meet me at Riverside Park at 2 p.m. if you want to know the truth. Come alone. A friend. I stared at the message for a long time, then checked the sender's email address. It was a generic account from one of the free providers, probably created specifically for this message. I looked at the clock. It was 12:30. Riverside Park was a 15-minute drive from my house. I printed out the email and locked it in my workshop safe, then grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Riverside Park was nearly empty when I arrived. The storm had passed, but the November air was cold enough to keep most families indoors. I parked near the playground and scanned the area for anyone who looked like they were waiting for a meeting. A woman in a dark coat was sitting on a bench near the river reading a book. She looked up when I approached and I recognized her immediately. Ava Chen, Marin's best friend for the past 3 years. The woman who had supposedly warned Marin about security system hackers. Thank you for coming, she said, closing the book and setting it beside her on the bench. You sent the email? Yes. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench, leaving space between us. What's this about, Ava? How much do you know about what Marin's been doing? I know about Blaine. She nodded. That started 6 months ago. But there's more. More what? More men. More lies. More money. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. What money? Ava reached into her purse and pulled out a manila folder. Marin's been skimming from the business accounts. Small amounts, but consistent. She's been building a separate nest egg. She handed me the folder. Inside were photocopies of bank statements, credit card bills, and what looked like lease agreements. She opened accounts under her maiden name, Ava continued, rented an apartment across town. She's been planning to leave you for months. I flipped through the documents. The bank statements showed regular deposits that matched the dates of several client payments to our business. The lease agreement was for a furnished apartment in the expensive part of town, signed 3 months ago. How did you get these? Marin asked me to help her set everything up. She said you were becoming controlling, and she needed an exit strategy. And you believed her? Ava looked out at the river. At first, yes. Marin can be very convincing when she wants to be. But then I started noticing things. What things? The way she talked about you. The stories she told about your marriage. They didn't match the Rowan I knew. I had met.
He just gave me a massage. That's it!
Remember, I won't be a cuckold!
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Met Ava dozens of times at dinner parties and social events. We had never been close, but she had always seemed genuinely friendly. What changed your mind? Last week, she asked me to lie for her. She wanted me to tell you that we were going to a spa weekend in Vermont, but really she was planning to spend 3 days with Blaine at some resort in New Hampshire. Did you lie for her? No. I told her I couldn't do it anymore. And she was okay with that? Ava laughed, but there was no humor in it. She threatened to tell my husband that I was having an affair. Are you? No. But Marin had photos of me having lunch with a male colleague, and she was prepared to present them as evidence. I closed the folder and handed it back to her. Why are you telling me this now? Because Lisa Dorsey called me this morning. She wanted to know if I knew anything about Marin and Blaine. What did you tell her? The truth. That Marin had been bragging about the affair for weeks. That she was planning to leave you and start a new business with Blaine. A new business? They were going to take your client list and start their own security company. Marin said you were too conservative, too focused on small contracts. She and Blaine wanted to go after corporate accounts. This explained the partnership review meeting. Richard had probably been hearing rumors about a potential split in the company. There's something else, Ava said. Marin's been recording your conversations. What conversations? Phone calls, mostly, but also some face-to-face discussions about business matters. She has an app on her phone that automatically saves everything. Why would she record me? She was looking for evidence that you were hiding assets or planning to cut her out of the business. She wanted ammunition for the divorce. I stood up and walked to the edge of the river. The water was dark and fast-moving, swollen from the previous night's rain. Ava, why are you really telling me this? Because I'm tired of being used. And because you deserve to know what's coming. What's coming? Marin and Blaine are planning to blindside you on Monday. They're going to accuse you of financial impropriety and demand that Richard force you out of the company. I turned back to face her. With what evidence? Fake evidence. Marin's been creating false documentation that makes it look like you've been overcharging clients and pocketing the difference. That's fraud. Yes, it is. And you have proof of this? Ava reached into her purse again and pulled out a flash drive. Screenshots of the fake invoices, copies of the emails between Marin and Blaine discussing their strategy, audio recordings of them planning your downfall. I took the flash drive. Why did you keep all this? Insurance. I knew eventually Marin would try to destroy me, and I wanted to be ready. What do you want from me? Nothing. Just promise me that when this is over, you'll make sure everyone knows that I tried to warn you. I looked at the flash drive, then at Ava's face. She seemed genuinely frightened. Are you going to be safe? If Marin finds out you talked to me? I'm leaving town tonight. My sister lives in California, and I'm going to stay with her for a few weeks. What about your husband? He's coming with me. We've been planning this move for months, but Marin's threats accelerated our timeline. I put the flash drive in my pocket. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Wait until you see what's on there. She stood up and gathered her things. Rowan, I'm sorry this happened to you. You didn't deserve any of it. Nobody deserves it. No, she said, but some people bring it on themselves. Marin brought this on herself. She walked away toward the parking area, leaving me alone by the river. I sat back down on the bench and tried to process everything I had learned in the past 24 hours. My wife was having an affair with my business partner. They were planning to destroy my reputation and steal my company. And they had been documenting everything, building a case against me based on fabricated evidence. I pulled out my phone and called Derek Martinez, my oldest friend and the owner of a small auto repair shop downtown. Derek, it's Rowan. Are you free this afternoon? Sure, what's up? I need some advice about a legal matter. What kind of legal matter? The kind that might require a good lawyer and a lot of patience. Sounds serious. It is. Can we meet somewhere private? Come to the shop. I'll close early and we can talk in the back office. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up and walked back to my car. As I was pulling out of the parking lot, I saw a familiar silver sedan turning into the park entrance. Marin's car. I drove past without slowing down, but I could see her in the rearview mirror, scanning the parking area like she was looking for someone. My phone buzzed with a text message. Where are you? Thought you were meeting Blaine at 3. I checked the time. It was 2:45. I had completely forgotten about the coffee shop meeting. I typed back, running late, be there in 10 minutes. Another message appeared immediately. Everything okay? Fine, just had to make a stop. I turned toward downtown, but instead of going to the coffee shop, I drove to Derek's auto repair shop. Blaine could wait. I had more important things to deal with. Derek was waiting for me in the back office with 2 beers and a concerned expression. You look like someone who's been hit by a truck, he said. Close enough. I sat down and took a long drink. Derek, what do you know about divorce law? Enough to know you should hire a lawyer before you do anything stupid. What if the other side is already doing stupid things? Then you document everything and let them hang themselves. I pulled out the flash drive Ava had given me. What if you had evidence that your wife was planning to frame you for embezzlement? Derek set down his beer and leaned forward. I'd say you need to talk to a lawyer immediately. What if you also had evidence that she was stealing money from your business? Same answer, but faster. And what if you had video footage of her having an affair with your business partner? Derek was quiet for a long moment. Rowan, what the heck is going on? I told him everything. The camera footage, the meeting with Ava, the fake evidence, the plan to force me out of the company. Derek listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. How long has this been going on? He asked when I finished. I don't know. Months, apparently. And you had no idea? None. Derek stood up and walked to the window that overlooked the shop floor. You know what this means, right? That my marriage is over? That's the least of your problems. If they succeed in framing you for embezzlement, you could face criminal charges. But I have evidence that proves my innocence. Evidence that was obtained illegally. The camera footage might be admissible since it's your house, but the bank records and recordings that Ava gave you could be thrown out of court. So, what do? Derek turned back to face me. You fight back. But you do it smart and you do it legal. What does that mean? It means you hire the best lawyer you can afford, and you let them handle the strategy. It means you don't do anything that could be construed as revenge or retaliation. And in the meantime, you document everything. Every conversation, every meeting, every suspicious activity. You build an airtight case that proves your innocence and their guilt. My phone rang. Blaine's name appeared on the screen. Answer it, Derek said, but put it on speaker. I accepted the call. Blaine, sorry I'm running late. Where are you? I've been waiting for 20 minutes. Had to make a stop. I'll be there in a few minutes. Actually, maybe we should reschedule. Marin just called and she sounded upset about something. Upset about what? She wouldn't say. Just that she needed to talk to me right away. Derek was shaking his head and making cutting motions across his throat. You know what, Blaine? Let's just wait until Monday. Whatever Richard wants to discuss, we can handle it then. Are you sure? I really think we should coordinate our approach. I'm sure. Have a good weekend. I hung up before he could respond. Good, Derek said. Now, let's talk about lawyers. Monday morning arrived gray and cold, with the kind of November drizzle that made everything look dirty and worn. I had spent the weekend preparing for the partnership review meeting, organizing evidence, and consulting with the lawyer Derek had recommended. Jennifer Walsh was a family law attorney with 20 years of experience in complex divorce cases. She had reviewed all the evidence I had collected and confirmed what Derek had suspected. Marin and Blaine were building a case designed to destroy my reputation and force me out of the business. The good news, Jennifer had told me, is that they've been sloppy. The fake invoices are obvious forgeries, and the financial records don't match the timeline they're trying to establish. The bad news is that they might not need solid evidence to damage your reputation. What do you mean? Corporate boards hate scandal. Even if the allegations are eventually proven false, the mere suggestion of financial impropriety could be enough to force you out. So, what's our strategy? We go on the offense. We present the evidence of their affair and the embezzlement before they can present their fake evidence against you. I arrived at the office 30 minutes early and went straight to my desk to review my notes one final time. The building was quiet except for the hum of the heating system and the distant sound of traffic on the street below. Marin arrived at 8:45, wearing her best business suit and carrying a leather portfolio that I'd never seen before. She nodded at me politely but didn't speak. Blaine appeared 5 minutes later, looking nervous and checking his phone constantly. He had dark circles under his eyes, and his usually perfect hair was slightly disheveled. "Morning," he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "Morning. Any idea what Richard wants to discuss?" "I'm sure we'll find out." Marin was at her desk, organizing papers with the kind of methodical precision that meant she was trying to control her anxiety. Every few minutes, she would glance up at me, then quickly look away. At exactly 9 o'clock, Richard Crane's assistant called to summon us to the conference room. Richard was already seated at the head of the long table, with 3 manila folders arranged in front of him. "Please, sit down," he said without looking up. We took seats on opposite sides of the table. Richard opened the first folder and studied its contents for a long moment. "I've been running this company for 35 years, he said finally. "In that time, I've seen partnerships succeed and fail for every reason you can imagine. But I've never seen anything quite like this." He looked up at us with the kind of expression that suggested someone was about to be fired. "On Saturday morning, I received some disturbing information about the conduct of this partnership. Information that, if true, represents a serious breach of professional ethics and fiduciary responsibility." Marin shifted in her chair. Blaine was staring at his hands. "Before we proceed, I want to give each of you an opportunity to explain your side of the story." Richard's gaze settled on me. "Rowan, would you like to go first?" "Actually, Richard, I think Blaine and Marin should go first, since they're the ones with something to explain." "I'm not sure what you mean," Blaine said. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a folder containing printed screenshots from the hallway camera. "I think you know exactly what I mean." I slid the photos across the table. The images clearly showed Blaine entering and leaving my house on Friday afternoon, with timestamps that proved he had been there for over 2 hours. Marin's face went white. Blaine looked like he was going to be sick. "These were taken by the security camera in my hallway," I said. "The same security system that you helped me install, Blaine." Richard picked up one of the photos and examined it carefully. "Is this what I think it is?" "It's exactly what you think it is." "Rowan, this isn't what it looks like," Marin said quickly. "Really? What does it look like?" "We were discussing business. Blaine had some contracts he wanted me to review. For 2 hours? In my house? While I was out of town? It's complicated." I pulled out another set of documents. "Not really. Here are the access logs from our smart lock system. They show that you disabled the door chime before Blaine arrived and that you reset the alarm system after he left." Richard was studying the documents with the focused attention of someone who had spent decades analyzing business problems. "Blaine," he said quietly, "is there something you'd like to tell me?" Blaine looked at Marin, then back at Richard. "I think I should probably call my lawyer." "That's certainly your right. But I should mention that I've already spoken with your wife." The color drained from Blaine's face completely. "Lisa called me Saturday evening," Richard continued. "She was quite upset. She also provided me with some additional information about your recent activities." He opened the second folder and removed a stack of papers. "Bank records, showing unusual transfers from our business accounts to a personal account belonging to Marin. Email communications between the two of you discussing plans to start a competing business, and audio recordings of conversations in which you discuss strategies for forcing Rowan out of the partnership. Marin stood up abruptly. I don't have to listen to this. Actually, you do, Richard said calmly. Please sit down. You can't make me. You're right. But if you leave this room, you'll be terminated immediately and forfeit any claim to partnership assets. Marin sat back down. Richard opened the third folder. I've also received information suggesting that false documents were created to support allegations of financial misconduct by Rowan. He spread several papers across the table. I recognized them as copies of the fake invoices that Ava had warned me about. These invoices appear to show overcharging of clients, with the excess amounts allegedly being diverted to Rowan's personal accounts. However, when I cross-referenced them with our actual billing records, I found several discrepancies. He pointed to specific line items on the fake invoices. The formatting is wrong. The client names are misspelled. And most importantly, the dates don't match our project timelines. Blaine was slumped in his chair, staring at the table. Furthermore, Richard continued, I verified that all client payments were deposited correctly into our business accounts. There's no evidence of any financial impropriety by Rowan. He closed the folder and looked at each of us in turn. Here's what's going to happen. Effective immediately, Blaine. Your partnership in this company is terminated. You have 1 hour to clean out your office and surrender all company property. Richard, please,